Should... Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome to
Hello.
today's show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, absolute pleasure. Just to give the audience a little bit of a background, so Elizabeth actually approached me with wanting to join the show from around like a sex pleasure gap, I suppose. From like an education perspective, you have this amazing movement, I would rather say, than company. So I'm really excited to have you on today and to hear like about your story and what's kind of inspired you to create this amazing community, I suppose. So if you don't mind just starting off, like introducing a bit about yourself and where you're at, and then yeah, we can go from there.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess long story short, I was actually a rower in college. So I was an athlete my first 2 years. And then when I stopped rowing, I had heard that a lot of athletes get like, it's such a big time commitment that you really want to like dive into a lot of extracurriculars. Oops, it might be a little loud. Hopefully it's not loud. So I joined the sexual education kind of community at school to kind of keep myself busy, which I love. So I did that for 2 years. And when I graduated from college, my mom's actually a photographer. So I built her a website for like a month while I was waiting to start my new job. And then I had one more month and I was like, I should just build myself a little sex ed website to kind of force myself to keep learning and stay in the community while I have a full-time job. So it really started as like this little passion project and hobby. And then once COVID hit, I was like, okay, maybe this is the perfect time to just really throw myself into it and see if this is like something that I want to fully pursue, because I kind of had this feeling that corporate life, I was happy, but it wasn't fully fulfilling me. So yeah, so then I started doing Beyond the BEEZ full time. And our focus is to sort of empower and destigmatize the conversation around sex and sex ed, and to sort of push through with a lot of research-based content, because we really felt like that's what's been missing in a lot of spaces. And then try to also make it fun with events and e-com so you can incorporate it into your life.
Wow. Okay. So it's called Beyond the BEEZ. Is that right?
Yeah, Beyond the BEEZ, because sex ed is birds and bees. So I thought it was a good play on the words. But when I started this, it was literally like a little me hobby. So I didn't even really think about it. I was with my parents on the beach and I was like, I think I'll just call this thing Beyond the BEEZ. And we were like, cool. I was like, okay. So It was just all so random and casual.
Of course, that's always where the best ideas come from. Like when I called this podcast Working Under Pleasure, I saw it on the side as like graffiti on the beach in Bali, and was like, done.
Yeah, like, good. There it is.
Yeah. Wow. So how long ago was this that you decided that you wanted to create Beyond the BEEZ?
So 2019 is when I first like launched it. And when I actually launched it on, I just got loud again. Sorry, guys. Then they're leaving. When I first launched it in 2019, I literally was like shaking when I was putting it on my Instagram, kind of like showing people that I had this sex blog, because there was a lot of pressure with it being like your own writing and the perceptions of who you are once you put something like that out there. It was really intense. So I literally almost fainted when I pressed it to share it on my real Instagram, and then kind of never posted about it again on my personal Instagram for like a year. And I just kept it super separate for a year and like tried to write, but wasn't doing it a ton because it was really hard to get used to being like a sex blogger person. And then I've just slowly gotten more and more comfortable with it as time has gone on. So it's been an interesting 4 years.
Wow. So for you then, because it takes balls to set up like a sex positive or anything sex related, as we both know. How did you adjust yourself to have the confidence to do that?
It was hard. It was really hard. Yeah. I think when so I worked in sex ed for those 2 years, but I was working for other people. So I used to post about like our sex week schedule all the time on Facebook, and I never thought twice. Like I would just post it and like never really revisit it in my mind. And then once it was like my own words and my content, it became a whole different layer to me. Plus like my education wise, I went to Harvard, which I loved, but there's a lot of pressure of like, how smart you are. It's like way overemphasized because there's a million smart people out there. So I think I'm also a math and science girl and not a writer. So putting that, there was that layer. And then there was the layer of people asking about me in sexual ways that I didn't love. And I felt really vulnerable because I was still like a 23-year-old girl, like newly single. It was just it was a big mashup. So I think it was, the first 2 years were honestly so hard. And then I just have been growing in my confidence, I guess, ever since.
Isn't that crazy about, you just mentioned that people reach out to you and ask the questions and you're not ready for them. I'm oh God, fuck, I'm getting them. I get them still. And I'm like, whoa, I feel like this. Are you at the point now where you feel like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, it's their stuff, they're messaging me about these things, or are you still quite like, you get triggered by people reaching out to you about
And asking like sex questions?
yeah.
It kind of depends on like what people ask. Cause sometimes people will ask me things like, even just, it depends. I don't want to like out anybody, but I'll get questions sort of like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? And I'll be like, oh no, I'm single. And they're like, is it because you have a sex blog? Like no one wants to date you. Like certain specific questions about like, like things like that can really still like not offend me, but it will surprise me because it'll come from like random people at random times. But questions about someone else's sex life, I like couldn't care less. I like love people. I love answering any questions someone may have for me. But then yeah, I guess depends on how graphic people get asking me about mine, that I kind of try to loophole around it with education rather than always being too, I don't know, detailed back, I guess.
Yeah, I actually get to the point now where I'm like, I don't really care what people think. I'll kind of reply and be like, or actually I won't reply to some of them. I'll be like, mate, check your facts. Like,
Yeah.
like, isn't it funny that because we have these kind of businesses, or we're trying to create a change in the sex world, that do you find people think that you're maybe more sexual, or you're more like like these all these great fantasies, and everyone has fantasies, but I think, do you find how people react to you is quite how do I word this? Are you quite confident in how people perceive you now? Because I think for me, that's a big work in progress, having a sex show.
Oh my God. That's probably the hardest part. I think the biggest issue I've had with this space is that people think sex positivity is synonymous with promiscuity. There's absolutely nothing wrong with promiscuity, but people will also often phrase it as like slutty, and like they will put you down. They'll try to put you down rather than saying like you're just sexually, active. And I'm actually not exactly in that specific way. So it's definitely like people think that there's that misconception, and there's a misconception that you're always sexually confident, or that you're like always having great experiences. And I think your sex life is exactly like the rest of your human life, which you have inevitable ups and downs, and the educational resources are kind of a toolkit to help you get through them. And just because you are a sex ed person doesn't mean you're not going to have those ups and downs, I guess. And that's probably been the hardest part, I think. Because
Wow.
people feel like they're catching you. They hear like, oh, she was upset, or she was struggling with this. And they're like, oh, like, that's not what like a sex blogger is supposed to be like. And you're like, yes, it is. Because they're not perfect,
Oh my God, exactly. And I think the more that you I find for me, the open about it, more people are like, shit, yeah, I had the same. Or, oh my God, I didn't think, like, don't put me on pedestals, we're all in the same boat. We're all going for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for you, like at the moment, like, is there any particular hot topics or areas that you're particularly focusing on, that you're seeing is coming up in like the sex positive world?
Definitely. We're really excited. We're doing I need to figure out a better word for a card game, but I think, have you guys heard of that card game, We're Not Really Strangers, or like Best Self, like the intimacy kind of question games?
No, tell me more.
They're like little intimate. You're like, I'm getting it. They're really great question games where you can ask, if you're like with a partner, they will have like 20 questions that you can ask a partner to find like a bigger sense of intimacy and depth. And I've had a couple of these card games before. I do a lot of singles dinner events, and we'll bring sort of fun card games for like partners as well, so you can kind of get to know people. But we're going to redo, or our idea for it is to do a more activity-based one that's really specific to the orgasm gap, because we really want to figure out how to help women in hetero relationships. We're going to blend out into, not just hetero in the future, but we're going to start with that because that seems to be the biggest issue by far. So our game is going to be focused on men, helping them get their partners to, experience more pleasure during sex, to really try to close that gap through education. And it's going to be called Learn, Think, Act. So you're learning something, then you're thinking and reflecting on it. And then there's a little action to help you kind of put it all into practice.
Oh gosh, like the orgasm gap. Woof. I definitely had someone on the show. Like I've discussed this before, but I think, I don't know, for me, I definitely had a thing where I'm 32 now, where most of my like 20s, I just couldn't come. Like I was at the point where I actually went and got like a yoni massage. And if you know what a yoni massage is,
Yes, of course.
yeah, where a lady, I was actually tweeting about this with my friend this morning, where this woman taught me how to relax. And literally, I feel like for me, it starts with you know, in my experience. And is there anything that you do where you educate like the women that it starts with them, rather than like obviously a partner situation as well?
I think what I've learned, and actually one of my favorite books I've ever read is She Comes First. I don't know if you read this, by Ian Kerner. It's so good. So it's really, it's tailored for men, for them to read it and figure out kind of how to help their female partners. But I think it's so helpful to read it as a woman, because then you can explain to a man what's kind of going on. And I wish I had the exact phrasing of it, but he was talking about the 3 C's for women, was making them essentially feel like comfortable. It's all about sort of, people get really worried about like smell or taste when it comes to cunnilingus, or they get worried about that. They get worried about timing, because it takes a lot longer for women. And then they get worried about like, they have their own stress levels. So the book is often teaching the men how to talk to women to make them feel comfortable and like reduce all that stress and like get right to the issues that most women are having based on how society has taught us to think about our bodies and to think about sex. So that's sort of the way that the game is approaching it. It's really coming from a place of like the mind, because your mind is the biggest sex organ. So we're trying to really focus on that and hope that you can kind of instill those ideas together as partners, rather than women always just having to tell the men. We kind of want them to figure it out as well, is our current idea of it.
Well, that's the thing. Like if a woman doesn't know in herself how she likes to come, how on earth is she supposed to instruct a man or a partner, whatever gender you term yourself, if you term yourself as gender, how are they supposed to then instruct them of what to do if they don't know themselves? And I think this goes back to like, at what point do we actually learn ourselves how to come? I'm just thinking about that right now. Like, you know, like for me, I was a very sexual child, and I think, and my mum always said I could actually talk about sex before I could walk.
I
God
love it.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so, although I didn't lose my virginity until I was 17, but like you, at school, right, you're given the banana and the condom, and that's as far as it goes. Like, can you imagine in some weird way at school? I don't know how this would work out, but like we actually get taught about our female anatomy and how to like maybe make ourselves enjoy pleasure in some way. And how that works at school. So go on.
Oh, totally. I think schools are just the worst with not giving us anything to work with. And there's that amazing platform called OMGS. I don't know if you've heard of that. I heard about it from Emma Watson, actually. She did an interview and was like talking about it years ago. And then it's a really amazing platform where the research, like it's research-based, but they show women kind of what different techniques. So it has a video element that I think is really helpful, but it's all based on helping you figure out different kind of methods for masturbation, essentially. That's probably a truncated version of it. But even if a school were able to just like provide that resource, if someone could go home and figure it out on their own later, like that would be a great kind of solution to it. Because I know parents obviously freak out about giving the kids too much information, which is why I haven't done high school yet, because I'm not ready for the parental issue of running into all that.
Do you think you'll ever do that at some point?
I think at some point. I think I'm like, not that I'm too young because I'm 26 now, but I think when I first started, I definitely felt like no one's going to listen to a 23-year-old. These like 40, 50-year-old parents I felt like they weren't going to listen to me, and maybe they would have. But it definitely felt like I didn't have enough confidence to sort of deal with a lot of the backlash that was inevitably going to be coming my way. So I think as time goes on, I will venture into that area because it's so important to get to people younger, but I have to kind of figure out that timeline as I go.
Wow. Do you know what I think though? One thing I've found out recently, like, because I'm 32, but people actually are there's like a shift where people respect you no matter what age you are. And actually, if you're younger, you're more relatable to those kind of topics, because like the kids at that school age will be like, okay, I can actually maybe open up to her more because she's younger.
Totally.
Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't hold you back in some way.
Yeah.
And then, so for you, like you said, obviously around like the blogging piece, and you started off from that area, when did you decide that this is where you wanted to head to? Like, was there a particular moment you were like, Oh gosh, because I remember for me, when I thought I'm going to have a sex podcast, I procrastinated a lot before I did it. You know, I've had a lot of mindfulness podcasts before. I've done 4 other podcasts where it's been purely, wellness in the mind. And then when I set up a sex podcast, it was just like, ugh.
Totally.
For
I
you,
mean,
go on, sorry.
I think I had that first year where I was like, it's just for me and it's not my full-time job and things like that, where it didn't feel like, it was still obviously so scary, but it didn't feel like anything. And then I think when COVID hit, it just made sense. But I also always knew, I think my family and I always joke about the same thing, where I've always been like this industry, it just like makes sense for me in terms of like, I was a psych major in college, and then I worked in fashion for a while. So there was that kind of visual creativity piece paired with the research element that I kind of was able to fuse together with my like interest in sexual education, which I've always been like. So it just kind of all like married perfectly together, which was really nice.
Wow. And so for you now, like, what is your intention sort of like for the next, I don't know, I hate planning things, but like the next year or so, where you see yourself going with this?
Mm. We've been focusing on partnerships with a lot of really amazing brands. There's one called Bird. There's another sex toy brand called O Collective, and they're like 4 women that started a brand. And the Bird is for 2 different couples, so 4 people. So there's a heavy focus on women founders that we've been having, and we're trying to pick different companies that we haven't heard a lot of before. And then we're adding them all to our ecom site in the very near future. So we're going to keep trying to expand that and have sort of a price point that is, affordable to luxury. So no one's like priced out. We're really passionate about that, because I was shocked how many people, especially in my own friend group, who had never had a sex toy before, or even when I had book club, like I had to order people's books for them a lot because they were like too embarrassed to order it themselves, which is totally fine. And I was more than happy to do it, but it's definitely like feels so stigmatized. So we're trying to really amp up what we can offer people, and then also amp up our events where we can bring all of that stuff in person, so they don't have the barrier of ordering online or feeling uncomfortable. It's much easier in person, especially if it's like an all-female space or a couple space and you're with your partner or something like that. So we're really working on those 2 elements, and then just more partnerships. So it's been great so far.
Oh my gosh. So for book club, you have to order their books for them.
Yeah. Some of my friends are just still on their parents' Amazon. They're like, I can't make another Amazon and my parents can't see it. And I'm like, okay, no worries. Like, so fine. Meanwhile, I'm here with I wish I had my book. It's over there, but my grandma is staying with us right now. And she walked by my sex ed book. She was like, very saucy book you have on the table over there. And it's called like Down and Dirty Bedroom Secrets. Like, I'm traumatizing my grandma.
You'd be like, Grandma, have a little look.
Have a little look. Yeah. I've been asking her about her dating life a lot. She won't give me anything.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Is Granny single?
She's single, but she's not interested in dating. I'm like, you let me know. We have lots of tips, lots of thoughts, lots of body language, information I've been putting out on the blog, which I think is so fun for dating. It's really interesting. So yeah.
So like, talk to me about the body language and in dating. Like, where are we at with that? I'm a single lady. Advice.
Are you? Okay. I forget which book this one came from, but essentially 55% of what we're saying comes from our body. So it's much more than what our tone of voice is obviously really important, but our words are actually the least important. So it's words, tone, body language. And a lot of like the key kind of quick pointers is sort of the sense of openness, and your main spots are like your chest area, your neck, and your wrists, and sometimes your thumbs. If your hands are a bit more open, like your palm, it's a sense of openness. And then other little indicators are like where your feet are pointing to is kind of an indicator of where you're traveling to next. Or if you're at a bar and you have like your glass in front of you or your phone in front of you, you're immediately shutting someone off. So you really want to keep a sense of openness right here, because it is really inviting for other people to come towards you. So there's a lot of ways to communicate through how you're standing and how you're interacting, and like the ways that your neck's positioned and things like that. So we have a lot of those tips on there, but I think the key is just openness. How do you stand open? How do you keep your phone away, your drink away, all those things?
Nice. So for you then, you in a relationship now?
I'm single too. So I think about it all the time.
Oh my, are you dating at the moment?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Nothing crazy, but going out about it. I just discovered this app called
I love hearing dating stories, because for me,
Yeah.
like, I don't like using the apps. And I know everyone's got their own relationship with apps. And I think also if you have a good mindset with apps, you're naturally going to have a good experience. But Anyway. And I'm really noticing at the moment, like in the dating world, there seems to be, I'm in Bondi right now in Australia, so there's a lot of open people out there. And
Mm.
I've been in open relationships before, not my jam, not my thing. Um,
Mhm.
so have you come across, or do you come across like people that want like open relationships, or where, yeah, how do you kind of
Definitely. I agree. I'm kind of the same where I'm not looking for something like that. Something that I do think is interesting that I've been talking about a lot with my friends. I don't know if you've heard of Esther Perel. She's another sex educator influencer. She's amazing. I'm like obsessed with her in every way. And there's a book called Mating in Captivity where she talks about this sense of sort of otherness and how much if you and your partner kind of can create the sense of otherness, you can continue to have like desire and sexual curiosity, because what we do in relationships is we create this sense of oneness and this unity, especially when we're married and especially when we have kids. And it kind of drains all this, the otherness is what makes you realize you're with another person. And if we take that away, there's nothing to kind of look for in a sexual experience, because it gets very monotonous. So the open relationship can really like bring that back in. It's obviously not for everyone. So other things that she kind of talks about is that sense of third party, whether it's like watching porn together, because you remember that there's other people who might be interested in them, or you can watch them at a bar, or you can, see them in their workspace. You're not just seeing them at home every day in the same way. So you just want to create that sense, but it definitely doesn't have to be with another person. You can kind of create it in other ways. So that's what I'm more interested in as well.
Wow. And so for you, like, what is kind of your view on porn then?
It's definitely, it's funny because it's a complicated thing that people go back and forth on it all the time. But I think one of the biggest things to realize is that a lot of the research out there that talk about porn and porn being bad are wrong. They're not. A lot of like religious communities can pay a researcher to go find something. Like you could pay me to go find anything, and whoever I study, I could go find you that. So there's like one study that went viral about how couples who watch porn get divorced, are more likely to get divorced. And if you actually go back and read the confounds and limitations, which is at the bottom of every study, it said something like, we only studied couples who had never watched porn before, but watched it for the first time or started watching it after they got married. So you have to wonder why, now that they have access to, a sexual experience with their partner for life, now they're choosing to watch porn. It's not necessarily the porn that's the issue. There's something else going on. So there's a lot of information out there that's creating these fabricated ideas of porn. I think porn as an educational resource is really not good. But in terms of, just viewing it and having education on the side, like that would be a really strong thing for us to do as a society, but we're just very scared to put the educational piece in, and we have to do it because kids are going to get education from porn, and that's never going to be healthy or helpful.
Oh my God. I kind of now think about that. I'm like, I imagine a kid growing up in this generation where you have access to everything. Like I only just started, I'm not a big fan of porn. I've never really like got into it.
Mhm.
But for me, I think like, I mean, I can tell when I'm with a guy and he has watched a lot of porn. You can just tell, like,
Mhm.
like the performative wants to just come and off you go. Like, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
gross. Okay, the guy's watching loads of porn. That's his thing, not mine. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes in porn, it can be, you don't portray how amazing it and an amazing experience is for a woman to actually come and to be in that safe place for her to experience that level of pleasure and to feel that safe amongst another partner to be able to express that. And
Mhm.
I almost feel there's this gap in the world where like we need to portray that, we need to educate that for women
Mhm.
to be like, oh my God, I can show up in like whatever way possible, and I'll be comfortable to be sexually liberated, and you don't even need to come, like,
Mhm.
do
Mhm.
you what do you think the ideal, or do you have an ideal where you like to see maybe like the porn industry go to? It's quite an out there
Yeah.
question. Free
No,
flow.
totally. Actually, no, totally. From college, one of the only other people that left, from school for me was, who also was working in sex ed, went the more like pornographic way. And she was making these really cool like videos of LGBTQ plus couples. And we would all she had a bunch of us come and watch it our senior year, which was a wild experience because a lot of the people that were coming to watch it didn't work in sex ed. So it was hilarious. Some people were freaking out. Some people thought it was amazing. And we all thought it was amazing, but I think it was hard for some people to get through. But she's crushing it. And there's such an importance of like supporting women creators, because they really are focusing, a lot of them are focusing on what you just talked about. So, and if you ever meet someone who's doing this, don't judge them and put them down. Like, we really should be saying thank you. Like, it's so important to have them in this space. So anyone creating that type of porn, like, good for them. And let's hope that there's just more and more and more.
Oh my gosh. Anyone listening right now that's doing that or feels inspired, thank you.
Yes.
Because
Totally.
it takes a lot of courage to also do that, right? You know, like to shift that industry as well. Like, I had a lady on the show last week and we were talking about how she was in the porn industry and she lasted a week and was like, no
way.
She'd been in the sex industry for 8 years, episode 4, anyone. And she then went into the porn industry and was like, I'm done, I'm checked out. This is a no.
Because of her experience, or how people were treating her outside of the experience?
Both.
Yeah.
And it also makes me like worry about the people that are in the porn industry right now that then don't know where they're going to head to or what actually feeling sexually liberated is like too. So, and I know it's a humongous world out there, so and a lot of money, so yeah, it's a really interesting topic to talk about.
It really is.
Yeah. And for you, like, do you have an idea of what you want in your own sex life and your own intimate life, or are you very much like a free-flowing person that just kind of trials and errors? Like, what does that look like for you?
One of actually the best things I've learned so far is this test called the Erotic Blueprint. I don't know if you ever saw the Goop episodes on Netflix, but they actually, I know some people can get very anti-Goop, and I do understand certain elements, but I thought their Netflix specials have been really informative and really helpful because they're able to reach a lot of people. And they did one series all about the Erotic Blueprint. And essentially it's a test that you can take by yourself or with a partner. And there's a free version, there's a $17 version. $17 version was worth it, in case anyone's wondering. And it tells you, it's kind of like the love language test, where it tells you what your archetype is and what your secondary is. So primary and secondary, sorry. So I kind of learning my own was hugely helpful to be able to explain. Mine was like sensual and then kinky. So it was hugely helpful to explain why, until I'm comfortable in an experience, I'm actually very much like not that into it. Like the sensual element to me was the brain element and being really comfortable and safe. And until I feel that, nothing else follows. So that was helpful to be able to explain it to myself. And I think if anyone's wanting to get to know themselves better, or a partner, it's really having the language to be able to explain what you're going through or how you think or how you feel. It's helpful.
Is this the episode where, you know, where it talks about all the different energetics, like you're like an energetic or you're...
So that was the first season they put out, or it wasn't two different seasons. That was the first thing they put out. And like, there was 5 episodes. The last episode was the pleasure-based one. And then there was a whole different series they put out, which was more couple-based, which has the Erotic Blueprint situation in it.
Ooh.
So it's a whole different thing in there.
Nice. Because I know for me, energy is a big thing, like energetics. Like, if I can feel someone's energy and it feels off, now I'm not interested, off you go.
Such a good thing. It's like feeling your gut. It's such a good thing to follow it. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I've learned the hard way about not following it and it not working.
Same.
Yeah. You know what I learned the other day? Like, if a woman isn't like aroused around a man, it's actually potentially her body being like, this is not safe for this, if you're a male partner, for this guy to impregnate you, whether you're trying but it's like your body's like, there's no way I want to procreate with this person, like get out and leave. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't had that in a long time, but when I have, that makes so much sense. When you look at the other person, you're like, Jesus, no.
Oh my God. Some of my friends have had used to get UTIs every single time they'd be with a partner, like a yeast infection or any type of thing. And then once they got a new boyfriend, never again. We were like, that's interesting. Like, I don't know the science behind that, but I do think your body in some way can reject people. I do.
Definitely. And I think about like my longest relationship and I got UTIs.
Like, your body was like, get out of here. You're like, no, it's fine.
I'm like, oh, 4 years on the line, I should listen to that. Yeah. But anyway, that's bad. But it's true, right? Like, I'm the same. Like, if I have girlfriends that are like, oh babe, I've got a UTI again, or like I really don't feel great, I've got thrush, I'm like, oh, was that person right? Or your yoni or whatever you call your vagina is not happy for a reason, and maybe it's the person.
Yeah, there definitely are experiences like that for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So for you, like, do you feel like you would like a relationship, or what's kind of your sort of status at the moment if you're
I
dating?
definitely feel more interested in it now. I think before I was actually super confused with my own sexuality. I was interested in sort of exploring other avenues, which I'm glad that I finally did. But I didn't, yeah, I think until I was able to do that, I didn't feel like a relationship was what I wanted. But I definitely feel, I think it's starting to lean back into the way of wanting, you know, more of a partnership, because so many people at our age are like pairing off, and I don't know, it just makes it starting to make more sense. Like before, it didn't make me feel like didn't want it. I loved being single with all my friends, but not that many people are single left.
Really? Is that how you feel?
I definitely do feel that way, which doesn't make me feel like I need someone. I think I'm definitely surprised when people get engaged really young, or kind of follow that social norm of, you know, working 9 to 5 and then getting engaged and then getting married and then moving out to the countryside and having family, like very, you know, specific lifestyle steps that I'm not interested in having. Like, I'm not sure I want to have an official marriage. I might, I go back and forth with it all the time. So that's something that I question a lot rather than a boyfriend now. And before I was kind of questioning if that was even right, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm so where I am right now, there's a lot of like what you'd say maybe Peter Pans, or a lot of people that don't necessarily want to grow up, or you know,
Mm,
guys that are in like their early 40s that, yeah, they're just the single men of one
mhm,
style. Maybe I'm just attracting them into my have attracted them into my life before, but
mm,
I feel like I'm surrounded by single people in London. Everywhere I go, actually, I think I attract a lot of single people, but I'm really interested by how a lot of people at the moment tend to have that opinion to what you've just shared around like don't necessarily want to get married, don't
mhm.
necessarily see that. Like, is that something you've learned through your own like family experiences, or what's kind of what shaped your view on marriage?
Luckily, my parents are still like, they're very happily married and have had a great relationship. Sometimes I just wonder, like, I think about this concept of forever, and I'm like, it's a wild concept that we've created as a society. And like, if it works out for some people, that's amazing. But I think the older I've gotten, the more I understand divorce, for starters. I think a lot of people never take the time to be single, are in relationships they're not happy with, that feel like they have to accommodate this timeline of 30 and be married and all these things. So I think like with 50% are divorced, 30% to me kind of makes sense, to be honest. And then I think another 20%, it's just life. Like, you change, you grow. And sometimes I'm like, do I want the government involved with this growth that I may be having in this separation? And I don't know, maybe I will decide, like I said, I'm 26. I wouldn't want to get married to like at least 30, 32, 33, whatever. So I have time, but I definitely makes me question, you know, why do we need that legal stamp of approval that you are forever? Can you just be forever in your own heads and hope that that's how it stays, but allow growth? I don't know.
I feel you. I feel you on that. Like I'm saying my parents have been married for gosh, like 40 years, and they're each other's best friends, and it's really
Mm,
adorable sometimes. But I feel you. I'm like forever. Like if you think about how
long.
it's changed, right? And like I don't know, sometimes days, like we're forever growing, and particularly people like us that want to grow and want to develop with ourselves and our businesses and our lives. Yeah,
Mhm.
I just doesn't light
We
me up.
changed so much. I'm like, I think about myself at 22 and now I'm 26, like I said, and I'm like, I was so different. It scares me. And obviously you change a lot in your 20s, almost, I guess more than the other phases of life, but it's scary.
I know. I yeah. I am a hopeless romantic. 'Cause I feel like I know when I'm
I
like when
am
I'm with
too.
someone that I absolutely adore, I'm like I want to be with you like
Mhm.
forever. And then I mean I've not had that in a long time, but I have had that before. But yeah, the marriage thing, not sure how I feel about that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
just nah. Saying that,
When
I'll
it
probably
comes,
so
oh,
good.
sorry, keep going.
As I say that probably like in a year's time, I'm like, babe, I'm married. No, I just I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, no, like literally same. Who knows?
No, it doesn't even feel good. I feel like for me, I have a lot of friends, particularly in the UK, that they do have that you know, traditional mindset where they are married now. I'm 32. I'm actually going back for a wedding soon, or they've got 2 kids and, you know, a house, picket fence and everything. And I do often question, like, I hope they seem to be very happy face level. And, you know, I am happy for them as long as they're happy. But I do question whether like these people that are following the majority are genuinely happy
Mm,
with their setups.
okay, that's good then. Yeah, I mean, it definitely can work out. You just never know.
You
But
just
when it
never.
comes to the dating life, I know you're not into the apps, but there's one app that I just downloaded. I don't know if you've heard of it, called Field. This has been,
Yes.
I'm doing it. I'm on it. It's
Tell
been
me
an
because
insane
this,
experience.
oh my God, tell me because this keeps coming up. Like if you're the third
Has
person
it?
now that's mentioned get feels, and I'm like, okay, I think I
I
will.
think you should do it. I think you should do it. Okay, it's great. It's a wild experience. So apparently I've been going on dates. I'm not interested so much in the hookup because of the way I've just explained myself in the sensual and then kinky. It's like, that's just not really my vibe. I just can never really have a good time without really knowing someone. So I've been going on dates, which I've been doing that because I didn't want to be like this sex blogger to these like little corporate men. Like I just felt
Ugh.
like they thought I was a little bit weird. It's a lot of finance boys, whatever. Just, I wanted people who are more open-minded. And I felt like I was finding that here a lot more than anything else. But the app is super skewed in terms of there's a lot more men on there than women. So as a woman, any
Right.
woman who downloads it, you get like so many messages and likes. It's kind of crazy at first. It's a bit overwhelming. And then it sort of simmers down. But before I go on a date, for safety reasons, I always have them like FaceTime me first to meet them, which is a hilarious experience. And then we always like exchange Instagrams to like keep it all, you don't want to meet anyone scary on here. So those would be my 2 tips, but I've actually really enjoyed it.
Are you open to sharing any stories? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so should I share this? I guess so. So I had it a while ago and it really overwhelmed me those first 2 days. Like I really didn't enjoy it. I was getting crazy sex 24/7, not my thing. So I deleted it. And then I recently downloaded it last Sunday and I went on 6 dates this week and I hadn't gone on a date in like 3 months. Like it's just a super, super datey app of like pulling people just like want to go out all the time. You get asked out a lot because there's so many guys on there versus girls. So I went on one date with one guy that I actually did like. So I'm going to see him again. But the other guys, I enjoyed my experience with them. I think one of them, he's a photographer. So we're going to work together in the future. Like that's a really cool experience. We've been messaging a lot about our photography work and creating more stuff for Beyond the Bees. So I've definitely had a really fun time just getting to know these like open-minded creative people. I had 2 dates that were scary and were like super sexually focused and like really intense and like asking me all these like crazy sex questions and things like that I didn't love, but everything else has been great.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so can you just explain field for people, for the listeners?
Yes.
What is field?
So basically it's kind of like a Hinge or Raya. I'm like, let me see where mine is right now. It's like a Hinge or Raya, but you put your sexual preferences first. I got nervous and I didn't really put my sexual preferences, but a lot of people, we all change our names on there too. Everyone has a fake name. So it's always funny reintroducing yourself when you're actually on the date, unless you FaceTime or do the like Instagram thing. And yeah, you basically put, your like desires of whatever you're looking for. And then a lot of people put descriptions of like exactly what they're looking for, which I didn't put anything for mine. I'm so lame. I just put, nothing. I just said new here with a little wave. So I'm being very lame on there, but I was definitely nervous with putting too much, I guess.
I mean, it's working for you, honey. You've had 6 dates. Great.
It was crazy. I haven't had dates in forever. It is the most datey app ever in terms of actually going out. It's wild.
I love that because I did quite a lot of like traveling late last year. I was in Bali, Dubai, and LA, and I remember there were some weeks where I'd be like, I haven't had dinner on my own or with a friend.
It's amazing. It's so
For
good to just
like
say yes.
weeks. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta go, say yes, meet new people, see how it goes. I always go on the expectation of it's not like a boyfriend. I'm not meeting the love of my life tonight. I'm just meeting new people. It's great. I really liked it.
I think that's a good way to like mix up your friendship groups as well, like
Totally.
experiences and cities and yeah. Ooh, I'm
Totally.
excited. And then so like
Yeah.
when it comes, so that's an interesting one, right? Because the field is so like focuses around like your sexual preferences from the get-go. No wonder some people go straight in when they meet you of like, hey, let's just talk all sexual. Like I wonder if people go
Oh yeah.
with the intention of actually meeting a relationship as well, and it's just like get all your cards out on the table from the get-go and see if we're compatible.
Totally. I think there's been 3 groups of people that I've figured out, at least in my head. There's the people like me where I'm interested in just meeting more open-minded types of individuals. And there's actually a lot of people that are like that. So that's one. There's another group of people who have specific kinks that they want to explore. So they're trying to put those first to see who's interested. And then there are people who literally just see this as like a sex app and who are like a bit disrespectful is what it feels like. They don't like want to even see if that's what you feel like that's the only way that they see it. So they just come at you really hard. So those are the 3 that I've experienced.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And also with the fake name stuff, like I love that you do that when you have the FaceTime because you're like,
You're like,
yeah.
hey, the FaceTime is hilarious. You're both like, so what are you doing right now? Like, nice to meet you. It's just like what do you even say?
Yeah, because
You
you
just giggle a
know,
lot.
like their intimate things or what they say their intimate things are, open
Mhm.
brackets, from the get-go, like, oh God, I love depth. So like from the get-go, I'd be like, cool. So tell me all about this. You must meet some people that are so open.
Oh my God. I know
So
their whole life story by the end of the day, which I love. Like I'm a classic oversharer if you're a classic oversharer. So we can actually have this in deep, like this depth conversation. And I feel like I was never getting that. I was not never getting it, but I haven't gotten that in a while. And I got it a lot this week. So that was really cool.
wow. And do you think you're going to see the other guy again?
I think so. He was texting me before this. So I hope so.
And so when you like meet up, is it just normal date kind of setups, or is it also like pretty out there?
Totally normal date setup. Yeah. Nothing different there, which is nice.
You have inspired me to download Fields.
I think you got to do it. It's fun.
I know what's going to happen. I'm at the moment where I'm not sure if I want to stay in Bondi for a bit or if I want to relocate to London for a few days. And I've said to people so many times, I'm going to book my flight to leave, and I'm going to meet a guy. It's always the way, you know, like when we're about to leave somewhere, you meet someone and you're like, damn it.
What? Oh, before you leave, you mean? Like
Yeah, it's
in
always the way I
uh
find, like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it does happen like that a lot.
it
You'd meet
does.
a new British man. Love a good accent.
You love a British guy?
Don't you? Don't you love the accent?
You know what? Yeah, I mean, the last guys that I've been with have all been British. And because I was in Australia during the lockdown, I was with pure Australian men. And I
Mm,
just attracted all these fucking flowy Joes, which are just not my thing. You know, they're the ones
mm,
that are like, hey, I'm into my yoga and rah, rah. And when I used to, and I love yoga, I'm into my yoga. But when I lived in London before I moved to Australia, I was the banker, the proper masculine man, the
that's
love.
what I've been with all the time. It
Yeah.
feels so old.
And I was like, no, honey, I'm not having a Nando's with you every Sunday night because you're hungover. I'm fucking done with this shit.
You have to
And
be in the right mood for this energy.
100%, like, no. And great,
Mhm,
you know, you love your corporate job and that's your life. Cool. And you gym at night at 5 o'clock every evening. No, thank you. So then, and
mhm.
then I went to the absolute other extreme when I got to Australia, lockdown, met everyone that would like meditate by the beach in the morning, didn't know how old they were because they were so in flow, and was like, oh
Oh,
God. And then, yeah.
that's
And
unreal.
oh God, I love this. And then when I was traveling, every guy I met was British, and but they're different because they have left the English society and they're more open-minded.
I was
So
gonna say, I feel like they're more judgmental towards us. Like I
yeah,
feel like British men are a bit more like, oh my God, a sex blogger. No way. Like
yes. And I'm like,
we're gonna make it. It's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Or I feel like you have the British guys. One of mine's a really good friend, and I was with him this morning actually. They feel like they can be more open with you with what's actually going on because they can't open up to
Mm.
anyone else. So they're like, hey, I really kind of want to secretly tell you this. And you're like, honey, you can tell everyone, like it's fine. You know, like you really cooler people by talking about it. So it's
Yes.
really interesting, the English way of life. But yeah, I love a sexy Englishman that takes control. This is my
Mhm.
vibe at the moment, and is open, has their own
Mhm.
spiritual practices, but commits to being on time, knows how old they are, knows what they want in life. You know,
So
that's
what you need to do is go to London and then download Field and you're gonna find all these men.
yeah,
All the open ones are gonna be on there. It's just a fact.
that's so true. You know what? My mom would be so happy to hear you say that. I mean, I don't know if she did. I think it triggers her a lot on this show. She always worries. She's like, you're going to meet a foreign man and you're not coming back. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to settle in London anyway. Let's face it. But
Mm, so
yeah,
fair.
she wants an English baby daddy of her children for sure.
I love it. I love it.
Oh my, do you have a particular type?
Not really. I've really only a lot of my like boyfriends or boyfriend like figures in life have been like lacrosse to finance boys. And I think yeah, so I think that that's not really what I'm looking for anymore. So I've definitely learned that that's not, yeah, the vibe that I want. But That's mostly what I was dating. I've been with a couple of boys that are more like Brooklyn based and like a bit artsier more recently. And I enjoy that much, much more because we feel a bit more similar in our like views of life and what we're looking for in life rather than the white picket house fence lifestyle, I guess.
Right.
You know? Yeah, not for me.
No way. Like I did a thing the other day where I re-looked at like my values. I don't know if you've ever done this and was like, because I've shifted everything the last 6 months, I mean everything, and it feels like a lot of things are falling apart slash coming back together in a new way. And I was like, freedom is my number one value, and it's like I want to be in a committed relationship, no more open relationships, but I want the freedom to travel, the freedom to be, the freedom to have fun. Like, do you find like what's your kind of like core values, or have you thought about this, I suppose, when you're dating? Because it's so important, I find.
Oh my God, totally. I mean, my main core values is like, I'm super independent. So the concept of being told what to do, I'm like, I guess that just would send me to like a new place of just, I can't have someone who's controlling. So I think like a lot of my values are the same as you, like freedom and wanting to be like my own, boss, which obviously I am. And so are you, that we've like kind of created that life for ourselves and having a life that's very free flowing and flexible. So I think that's one of the reasons why I can't, someone from Field just texted me.
Oh, cool.
That is hilarious.
Mr. Sexy from Field.
Literally, what are you doing Thursday? I don't think I want to go out with you again. No, he's actually great.
Oh, really? No?
That's hilarious. I don't know, maybe that's so funny. But yeah, I think same thing, like flexibility and a sense of creativity without us having to follow the set rules that society is kind of driven out for us. Like, I just don't want that life. And I don't want someone who's like, I have to propose to you by this age. Like, I want them to be able to at least have the conversation with me of maybe we don't want this, maybe we could do it differently. Maybe we could do this less traditional, really rejecting those traditions is so important to me, I think, or just rethinking them and making sure you're doing them because you want to do them, not because you're supposed to do them.
Oh my God, yes. Like, I remember I was with one guy once and he was like, at a minimum, and he kept emphasizing the word minimum. And I was like, come on, mate, spit it out. He's like, at a minimum, I won't get married at 35 until I'm 35. And at the time I was like 26, 27. And I was like, what if you meet the most amazing woman at like, AKA me?
Yeah. What if I'm your wife?
and you're like, I want to marry you, or I don't want to marry you, but in your head you're waiting until you're 35. Like, why?
It's
what you're
stressful. Yeah.
like, and that was the end of that one between him and I. But I remember that at the time being like, ew, like, why do we set it on an age? And I know for women, like, we have the biological clock and we do have a different kind of time frame. But yeah, I'm very open to that. Like, if I like someone, I want to be with them, and that's it, and see what happens. I don't ever weddings as much as my auntie and mum have got their wedding hats ready and waiting for me.
Are they ready? They're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, my brother's my brothers, there's two of us and I'm the eldest, and my brother's gay, and him and his partner are beautiful. I adore them, but they aren't really into marriage. So it's like, okay.
Oh, the parents are like very much ready. That's so funny.
Well, they are, but my mum plays it cool, but she's ready.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it's such a traditional thing. It's like what they like, they're so used to it. And they're so like, even the last name thing, like, I doubt I'll change my last name. I actually know that I won't.
Yeah, I'm quite similar. Because I know I'll be the only one passing on my name in my family because my brother's gay to my children. Will I double barrel? I don't know. I like I don't know, was something I think about further down the line. But yeah, it's a really,
I like what Brooklyn Beckham did. Brooklyn and Nicolette Peltz. Did you see this? That they both hyphenated their names, so they're both like Brooklyn Peltz, both of them. Which I feel like I'd never seen the boy change his name too.
Love that. Done.
I love that. I thought it was the best thing ever.
That is done. I totally agree. Totally agree. Because why would that? Yeah, that makes
the woman. Yeah.
Done. I see that encouraging to get married because I'm doing something that's not the norm.
Yeah, exactly. The non-traditional, like, just need it at some point.
Yeah, although it depends on their surname. I mean, you could get some really funny, awkward ones. I mean, my surname is Wood, so I wonder how that could pan out in some really.
What's cute? What's fun? It's simple.
It is cute. It's so simple, and yeah, it's a very easy surname. But let's see. But anyway, I have loved having this conversation with you, and I know this was so spontaneous, and you weren't.
I know.
for this podcast interview. But where can people find you that want to hear more about the beautiful Beyond the Bees and like more about you? Where can we find you?
Definitely the Instagram Beyond the BEEZ is where we're like the most active. And then we have our website as well, which is where we have our ecom, and we'll announce a lot of our events on there. So that's just beyondthebees.com. But BEEZ is with a Z, not an S. S is a beekeeping website. So Z it is.
Anyone wanting to look at sex education or beekeeping, it's just to let
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. Exactly. They're gonna like go view it and be like, what is this? So Beyond the BEEZ, these are the same.
Some weird sex bees. And are your events just US based at the moment, or are you going global? Like what?
At the moment, they're US based. I'm hoping to actually do some in London in the future because a lot of the people I work with are London based. So that's the big hope for the future. But everything's New York based as of right now, which is unfortunate, but we'll grow. We're going to grow.
Of course. When you are in London, let me know. And
yes,
that lines up as well. Because
yeah, totally. We'll do an event in the very near future, maybe. That'd be sick.
Do that. Done. Okay. Well, I'll put everything in the show notes so for everyone to have a look. And one question I always like to ask everyone before they leave: what, or do you have a favorite pleasure or guilty pleasure? Can be sexual or non-sexual. What's kind of your little thing that you love to do?
My weird guilty pleasure is how much I love candy. And it's the first thing that I do when I open my eyes in the morning is eat my pieces of candy from my candy jar. Or if I wake up in the middle of the night to go pee, I will eat candy in the middle of the night. I do it all the time. And I have a million cavities, and that simply must be why.
I think that, yeah, I mean,
it could, it's a really weird guilty pleasure, but I do eat candy a lot.
Whoa, are you hyper the whole time? Like,
no, I think it's because I just have such a sweet tooth, and I'm a vegetarian, and then I'm dairy intolerant and gluten intolerant. So I like am already limited. So then I'm just like, I want to eat this. I'm doing it whenever I want.
Whoa. So when you
It's
say,
like
is that like a favorite candy of choice here? What are we talking?
We're talking sour candies always, any type. 8 a.m. right on in there.
In the middle of the night as well.
And middle of the night sometimes, just depends on the night.
What happens if you've run out of candy and you wake up in the middle of the night?
I'll survive it. I'll be a little sad, but it'll be okay. But I really don't run out of candy in my candy jar. I really don't. I always refill it.
Wow, girl, that is.
Yeah, I'll bring you a candy jar when I see you in London.
Thank you, but you can have that one.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, but no, thank you.
You're like, no, that's your guilty pleasure.
It's your guilty pleasure. It's one of those things where you buy something for a friend, but you just want to keep it yourself. Like, I'll be like, thank you for buying that for me. You can have that next to your bed.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, Elizabeth, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to have you on today. And yeah, for everyone listening, I will share where you can find Elizabeth, where you can find out all the exciting new stuff that she's creating over the world and around the world. And yeah, thanks for joining me today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure, honey.